I'm attorney Michael Potter, and this is our segment on the Retirement Inheritance Trust. I'm going to be introducing you today to a specific concept using a trust, and the reason we're going to use that trust is to have a more favorable outcome. Now, if you're like most people, you probably filled out a designation of beneficiary form when you opened your 401k, your pension plan, or your IRA. But what many people don't realize is that there's a hidden time bomb in there, and you need to do some better planning. Now, if you're a member of the baby boom generation, or the two generations that follow them, this is really important. You need to listen up. Believe it or not, we're actually going through one of the largest transfers of property and wealth in human history. The generation that grew up during the Depression, the people who fought World War II and Korea, as they pass on, what we're learning is many of them have saved and invested over a long period of time. And as they transfer property and wealth to the succeeding generation, the baby boomers, and those that follow them, there's something very interesting occurring, and you need to be aware of it. What oftentimes happens when people inherit their parents' IRA is that they close the account, they pay the taxes on it, and then the money is spent. They go on vacation, they put a new car in their garage, they put a new roof on their house, and then the opportunity to have the account grow over their generation is lost. With a retirement inheritance trust, the money can be stretched out in separate sub-accounts underneath that trust so that each member of the family can have essentially a separate bucket. So let's look at an example where you might have decided to use the retirement inheritance trust to benefit more than one generation of your family. And as an example, let's say that you had a granddaughter who's 3 years old, or a niece or nephew that's 3 years old. They have another 83 years of life expectancy. Now, if your account was growing in a modest mutual fund inside of the retirement inheritance trust, and let's call it, 8%. Let's say it was earning 8% every year, and it was paying out the minimum required distribution under the IRS rules. And let's call that 4% for purposes of this illustration. If the account is growing at 8%, but only paying out 4%, then over a long period of time, the growth on that account is going to be substantial, perhaps quite a bit of money. Now, if you're a protective parent like me, you probably want to protect your children against future misfortunes that maybe they don't even see coming yet. I have 2 children, Leah and Christopher, and I worry about them going through a divorce or a lawsuit down the road and what might happen if I don't plan adequately. And that's what's nice about the Retirement Inheritance Trust. Now, because of the nature of the trust, it is revocable and amendable as long as you're alive. It can be changed at any time. Upon your death, it becomes irrevocable, and that's what protects your heirs, your nieces, your nephews, your grandchildren, for many years into the future. from having that inheritance lost to future divorces or lawsuits. And because the money is paying out at a smaller rate than its growth, then each year it's very possible that the account gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger over time, so that even a modest account could be stretched out over the 83 years of our previous example, such that it might be worth quite a bit of money to your nieces, your nephews, and your grandchildren. It's worth thinking about. So let's take just a moment and look at another example where the IRA owner has 3 children, Peter, Paul, and Mary. And together they have 4 more children, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Well, in this humorous example, you can see where the IRA account owner, Dad, has 3 children, Peter, Paul, and Mary. And they are recipients of the first level of sub-trusts, with John, Paul, George, and Ringo underneath them, the grandchildren, to receive it over their lifetime. And of course, even a modest account that's growing at a decent rate, 8% in our example, and then paying out the minimum required distribution, 4% in our example, can really be beneficial over the lifetime of those beneficiaries, particularly if the money is protected from lawsuits, creditors, and divorce. As you can see, this is an excellent way to plan for a legacy that goes down to nieces, nephews, maybe your grandchildren, maybe your kids, I don't know. It's going to depend on you and what you'd like to do. But let's discuss your options and see what makes sense. Well, as usual, I've given you a lot to think about in the time that we have. And I'm sure that you have questions. So if you do, feel free to contact us. Either myself or a member of my staff will be glad to get back with you and help you think through this process. I'm attorney Michael Potter, and I look forward to hearing from you.